Before I get into the video, I want to preface by saying that I know that the title of the video sounds pretty extreme, but I'm not an ex-fan of Life is Strange. I still love the series dearly and it'll always hold a special place in my heart, but I don't love the series as much as I used to, and a lot of that has to do with the toxic fandom that it has along with what the devs have done with the series over the years. Also, these opinions are my opinions and my opinions alone, so I won't tolerate any hate comments. If you haven't seen my first video where I talked about how I felt about the announcement of Double Exposure and how I felt about Chloe possibly not making a comeback, I want to talk more about that in this video, and the game as a whole now that it's out and I've seen full gameplay of it. If this is your first time you're watching me, I'm a Cheshire cat and this is Cheshire Chats, where we discuss everything gamer related under the stars. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. So I'm not a Chloe hater, but I do feel like sometimes how she treated Max and the people around her, especially her mom, is understandable, but it doesn't excuse her behavior, nor do I feel like Max and Chloe should be together. So when it was confirmed that Chloe was actually not going to show up in Double Exposure, naturally everybody and her mama became feral and pretty much had a meltdown, which is understandable. But at the same time, the Max and Chloe riding off into the sunset together isn't canon, and I don't care who wants to believe that it is. Any sane person knows it, and clearly even the devs knows that Chloe dying is the real true canon of it, especially since Chloe has verbally said in the first game that she doesn't deserve to live, and everybody in Arcadia Bay doesn't deserve to be sacrificed for her. So I feel like Max should have respected it, and it was honestly good to see the devs showcase the trauma and the strain between Max and Chloe because of that decision to save her. I watched Wayland's playthrough and she played the route of Max and Chloe having gotten together and then they broke up. So I was able to really see what direction the story went in if you picked that Chloe and Max were high school sweethearts and then they broke up. But because of this, I honestly don't know who the target audience is for this game. It's definitely not for the Max and Chloe fans who save Chloe because Chloe is 100% not in the game. And if you read all of Max's text messages between her and Chloe, you will see how straining their relationship became and how much it seemed like Chloe eventually resented Max for saving her. But I also feel like it's not for the Life is Strange fans who is neutral or doesn't care about Chloe. Because even when they introduce a new love interest for Max in the form of beautiful and goofy Amanda, right off the bat Amanda tells Max that it's probably too soon for them to get together because Max is still reeling from her past trauma on top of losing her relationship with Chloe and losing Sophie. And as someone who already moved on, it was a bit annoying to see, but I do respect that it's realistic, and just because years have gone by, it doesn't mean Max is completely healed. Still, I question who Deck 9 wanted to target with this game. Even if they were just trying to target new people, I kind of feel like this isn't the best game to start off your Life is Strange journey with, because there's a lot of references to the first game that you would just be completely clueless on if you hadn't played the first game yet. Life is Strange Double Exposure is very much a direct sequel to the first Life is Strange game, but at the same time it feels unnecessary and a bit of a cash grab. Another problem I have with the game that I mentioned in the first video is that this is yet another murder mystery story. In the first hour you get to meet and bond with Max's new best friend Sophie, but then she randomly dies, so now you have to sit and deal with Max having trauma from her past on top of her having to solve Sophie's murder, and this honestly makes the game feel really depressing. Like when I was watching gameplays of it, I didn't feel happy or good about the story. I felt so downtrodden, and maybe that's the point, but I'm just so sick of these murder mystery storylines. I really liked Life is Strange 2 because it was different. The choices actually mattered, it had multiple endings you couldn't purposely choose from, and it was just a simple story about two brothers going on a road trip to Mexico, rather than spending the entire story trying to solve their father's murder like every other Life is Strange game. But unfortunately, Life is Strange 2 wasn't as well received, and I don't know if the devs looked at that. It was like, well, let's go back to the murder mystery plot since that worked well for the first game, so that's how we got True Colors and now Double Exposure, but y'all, I'm tired. And then once the murder mystery plot started to pick up, where Max finally activated her new powers, we pretty much never see the trauma from her past relationship with Chloe again. She starts focusing on the Sophie murder, so it just felt really weird to have that constantly thrown at us and then abruptly stopped. Not to mention that the exploration quest that you have to go on to get from point A to point B is very boring. Like, I feel like the journey with trying to find Rachel was much more interesting, but the journey with trying to figure out who Sophie's killer is in Double Exposure is just not that engaging, and I find myself instead just spending time on my phone while I listen to the playthrough in the background. Like one quest was trying to get some keys, I guess, but it wasn't as exciting as when you try to get Frank's keys in the first game, and then you have to go on a hunt to find Vin's phone, and I'm just so confused and bored. Real talk though, what's funny is that the only side quest that Max goes on that I actually liked was when Max had to find Sophie's camera that Moses took because it included a stealth section and astrology themes. And then in the background, they have this little mystery going on with the Braxton Society, which honestly resembles the Vortex Club from the first game, but unfortunately, I couldn't care less about the Braxtons. This game feels very story driven rather than character driven, and Willis actually touched on it a little bit in one of her videos, and I fully agree with her thoughts. It feels like the story is the driving force of the game while the characters are just sitting in the backseat being taken for a ride. A lot of things that the characters are doing in the game doesn't really make sense and it feels like a useless plotline. Like Vin's shifty nature, Moses stealing Sophie's camera just because he feels like she wouldn't want her camera to be in the hands of the police, and the whole Alderman situation. Speaking of Alderman, a very weird thing that happened that has me wondering if the devs no longer knew what to do with the cop called Alderman. But in one scene, he was able to expose Max, and then he was able to see his other self for some reason, and then literally vanished in thin air. He was just never brought up again after that. But it was very weird and not well put together, so that's a bit of a red flag. And then every other character they tried to include in this game, like Gwen, Lucas, and even Vin, I honestly find it hard to care about them. Like I really only care about Max, Moses, Sophie, and even Amanda. So Max was officially given two love interests in the form of Amanda and Vin. Right off the bat, I love Amanda. She's better than Chloe in every single way because she considers Max's feelings and realizes that it would be wrong and weird to pursue someone who is going through so much shit after Sophie died. I know a lot of people like to excuse Chloe and say, well, her dad died, her best friend left, and blah blah. And yeah, I get that, and I sympathize Chloe for her past and how it basically molded her into who we know today. But that still doesn't give Chloe the right to treat Max like shit, constantly being passive aggressive towards, and even lying to David about the weed being Max's in the first game. And these are all things that Amanda isn't. She's funny, she's adorable, she's so considerate. Even when Amanda does act passive aggressive towards Max, it's not done out of malice because she's actively trying to hurt Max. She does it because she's hurt by Max's actions in certain timelines, and Amanda immediately apologizes for it too. Then there's Vin, our corny and pretentious dork who likes to try too hard to flirt. Vin is interesting to say the least. We weren't really given a chance to establish his relationship with Max when you first meet him, so because of that, it feels a bit weird that Vin tries to flirt with Max right away when you, as a player, first meet him. And no matter how many times people like to say he's creepy or whatever, I just don't see that. I mean, yeah, sometimes his flirty dialogue is cringy, trying too hard, and when he's not flirting, he acts like a pretentious dude that is too good for whatever he thinks he's too good for. But I don't mind it. I still find him interesting, but I only see him and Max as friends. Then there's all these random side romance plots where Diamond and other minor characters are admitting having feelings for Moses, even though Moses already has a boyfriend. And even Vin said that Moses is hot, but he also might be having a thing with Reggie. And I don't know what's going on, but people saying that this game feels like Riverdale aren't wrong. Ever since I played True Colors, I've always imagined the next Life is Strange game having a black protagonist, and I've always wondered what type of powers they would have, and this is a slight spoiler, but in Double Exposure, a character ends up being a shapeshifter, and I just can't get over the fact that this should have been the power of Life is Strange 4. Like, we should have gotten a black protagonist that could shapeshift. That would have been so cool than what we were given with Double Exposure. I mean, I guess it's cool that this is the first time we got two power wielders in the same Life is Strange game, but I just wish this could have gone to an actual protagonist rather than a side character we hardly see and talk to throughout the entire game. Regardless, the twist did end up answering some questions we had, that still doesn't excuse the awkward writing. Literally, the ending was no different from how the first Life is Strange game ended, and because of that, I honestly don't have much to say other than Deck Nine Inch tried too hard to copy the first game and is cringy. Overall, this entire game feels like a huge cash grab. Like, it doesn't really make sense on a story and character level, and even when they try to include Chloe in the game, it feels more like a reminder than a homage. And what I mean by that is that the game is constantly reminding you that Chloe exists, but they do it in a way where it feels like Max is still not over her. I mean, they even give you the option to wear one of Chloe's shirts from Before the Storm, and they dyed Max's hair blue, and because of this, it makes you feel like Max isn't over Chloe. So making her move on to Amanda or Vin feels weird. It feels like an adult reskin of the first game, where they're trying to copy the first game without trying to understand what made the first game great, especially with them adding in yet another Storm. At this point, I kind of would rather pretend that this game doesn't exist. I mean, it's still going to be considered Life is Strange 4, but it's not my Life is Strange 4, unfortunately. I would rather go back to wondering what happened to Max after the first game and just keep it that way. Some games don't need sequels, and this is one of them. So Deck 9 did an interview briefly talking about the future of the franchise, and the long story short is that not only are they wanting to explore more with Max, and surprisingly with Sophie, but they're also talking about potentially going back to other characters, and we might have a Marvel's MCU on our hands. At this point, I might as well call myself an X fan right now, because I'm not thrilled about this news, and I know I'm in the minority, and that's okay. But I don't like multiverses. I never liked that with Marvel, so if this is the direction they want to go towards, then I'm not going to like it. I also don't like the idea of continuing with past characters. I just want to continue to move forward and keep this game as an anthology where each game has a different protag with different powers. This is what made the series great, and I don't know if this is something Deck 9 really wants to do, or Square Enix is also putting their foot down on some things, but bottom line is I'm not happy about this news, and considering how bad Double Exposure was, I don't have any faith that future Life is Strange games are going to be good anyways. Either way, this might be the end for me with not only Life is Strange but also with Deck 9, because they were the ones that created Before the Storm and True Colors also. And even though I did like Before the Storm just as much as the first Life is Strange game, True Colors was decent enough. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it, so I'm probably just going to stick with Don't Knock, because they're coming out with a new video game called Lost Records Glimmer Rage, and I've heard that they want that game to be a series too, where each game is called Lost Records and then it deals with something specific, and I love that, and I really do hope it becomes successful, because I do think they're sounding pretty confident for a new video game series that we know nothing about. So fingers crossed it'll be good, because at this point I'm done with the Life is Strange series, and it's not like the fandom is fun to be in anyways. So my final thoughts is that I obviously didn't enjoy this game at all, and now knowing what the future is looking like, especially after seeing the post-credit scene where Diamond potentially has powers too, I'm like, no thanks. I mean, I did really want especially a black female protagonist with powers, but I just don't like how they're doing it, and it seems like they're wanting to pursue a multiverse, or at least pursue a Life is Strange game where multiple people with powers are in it, and that's just not my vibe. I miss the core element of Life is Strange, and this isn't it. It feels like it's trying to be Marvel, and I decided to drop out the Marvel fandom too because of the whole multiverse thing, and it's half-baked, so yeah. Let me know what you thought about this game as long as it's respectful. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, like and share the video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.